Good morning, dear friends. Today's conversation will be in English. Surprise, surprise. We have a dear guest. His name is Mike ZUMBLUSKAS, and he's a Republican candidate for the U.S. Congress from the Upper East Side of the island of Manhattan, formerly known as the beautiful island of Manhattan. Mike, how are you?
Not too bad. Thank
Can
you for having me on.
you guys, ladies and gentlemen, let me know if there will be some technical irregularities. I would be ready to. I'll try to do my best to fix it on the fly. Mike, you are a long-time New York resident. Tell us a few
Yes, I
words
moved
about
here
yourself.
back. Yeah, I moved back here in 1989, uh, July 1st, 1989.
Hmm.
After I graduated from college from the University of Scranton in 1983. The economy was in the dumps.
Hmm.
Inflation was running about 20%. Couldn't find a job, so I went in the Army to pay off my student loans. After I got out of the Army in '87, we went back to school, back to the University of Scranton. I met a friend of mine from my first 4 years, and he said, "Hey, I'm in New York." Actually, was living in Jersey City. He said, "Move in with me till you find a job and get your own place." And 2 weeks later, I was in New York.
Oh, fantastic.
But
Listen, you have a textbook bio. You are what is called, as you call yourself here, an army brat. Your family
mhm.
was in the military. You were in the military. Tell us about your childhood. Tell us about your growing up.
Well, I started elementary school in Okinawa, Japan, and finished high school in Aviano, Italy, and went to like 9 other schools in between that time. In the '70s, I was in Denver, Colorado, and I was actually bused. And the funny thing is, I was living in mixed communities, and they still bust me because one area I lived in, Montbello, was mixed. Mostly it was GIs, and then I was on the base, and I was shipped and we were still bused. And busing did not work. I will tell you that right now. Uh, it really didn't help anything. It actually hurt more than it helped because parents that would be involved can't be involved because when you have to drive an hour and a half to the school, a lot of working class parents can't make it. So when Kamala Harris said, "Oh, it was the best thing in my life," she lied, and she knows it. But
What do you
but
think
like I
is?
said,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ask your question.
That's all right. Yeah. So some you Americans they know the U.S. centric. They don't know what's going on except for the what they get through CNN or whatever TV they're watching. Some people looking only outside. They don't know what's going on in their own country. So to me, you're a good combination of knowledge of the world and the knowledge of what's going on because you work in for the city of New York, right? Currently.
Yes, I'm work for the New York City Department of Transportation as a resource management analyst for the uh, basically for roadways and repairs, the people that pave the streets and fill the potholes. I know a lot of people are going to get angry at me because they're always complaining about potholes. We try the best we can,
Oh, this ramp
but you're right. Go
exit
ahead.
by the UN. This ramp, I used it a few days ago. It was just so. It's like an obstacle course over there. Let me ask you: can you name like three things that are wrong today? What to take care of? What you're going for the U.S. Congress? It's a
Mhm.
tall order. It's a big job in terms of to accomplish anything in the current environment. What do you think the three things should be to be tackled like firsthand?
Well, some of my top three issues are: one, we need to bring manufacturing back to the United States, if not to the United States, at least Canada and Mexico, because right now we're seeing the supply problems we're having, we're chip shortages and everything else. And Omicron, when it first hit, was so much worse because most of the hospitals in all of the United States were basically using just-in-time inventory. And since we don't make PPE here or drugs here anymore, the hospitals start running out. China shut down, and we just weren't getting it. And so, that was one of the good things President Trump did. He made calls to these big corporations like GM, Ford to start making ventilators, 3M to start making PPE. So that's one. Another one is we need to stop this cancel culture. We need to stop big tech from interrupting news and letting the people know what's going on. So one of the things I want, the only way you're going to punish them is to fine them heavily for what Twitter and Facebook and all the other social media did to the New York Post over the Hunter Biden laptop when they said, oh, it's fake news, misinformation, Russian disinformation. When it comes out that it is true, then they're going to have to pay hefty fines. Not only the big tech companies, but also the fact finders. For example, the New York Post with its distribution, that probably would have been a $500 million fine just for that one incident. Now, if it's a smaller person, it might only be 10,000. But you fine them to death. Their board of directors will say, enough, we're losing money, and that's what's going to happen. Because you see what that is actually being effective in Europe, because Europe is fining Facebook. They are fining Twitter. We need to do the same thing here to end it. Another big issue is Social Security and retirement. Social Security is supposed to go bust. And, well, not bust. It will be run out of money. And since it's a semi-Ponzi scheme because people pay in, what's going to happen, we're not going to have the reserves. So they're saying it by 2034, if not sooner, they're going to have to reduce how much all our seniors are going to get paid. It's probably going to be 75 cents on the dollar. Now you got the Democrats and Pelosi and them trying to cut people's 401ks, saying, oh, we have to stop that. I mean, if we're going to be reducing Social Security, then we need to increase how much people can put into their retirement accounts, like the Roth IRA or the total IRAs and stuff, because people are going to have to live off that. And if we're not prepared, that means we're going to have to spend much more money and to actually help, seniors live. And, right now, my mother basically lives off, Social Security, and she's only getting like $1,600 a month. And that's high compared to some people. And luckily, she lives in Pennsylvania, where the cost of living isn't as great here. How are you going to live on $1,200, $1,400, $1,600 a month if that's all you have? And so those are some of the three of the major ones. There's also illegal immigration, which we've got to reduce. We got to stop all these Omicron rules that are just so oppressive. And, the politicians that are pushing this are lying to us. England, Czechoslovakia, Denmark, Finland have just lifted all their restrictions. They don't even have vax mandates, passports anymore.
Yeah. It's amazing how this wave goes on, and it's so coincided with what's going on in Canada, and you cannot, help but wonder what would be the right way. And speaking of this word that I hate the word struggle, but it looks like we have to struggle, as Michelle Obama would say, we have to struggle against something that, like, if you when you get to the Congress, to the U.S. Congress, how do you think you would counter what is called the Squad, this formation led by our co-citizen, say Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? I think she
Like
spends
that,
more time in Washington nowadays, and her constituents don't see her much. and I don't know what she's done for them except taking away the Amazon jobs that
Mhm.
were about to come to her area. But how would you fight with this bunch?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to be scared to bring them out on the table for the lies they're pushing. I mean, for example, the social democrats, the progressive Democrats, the Bernie Bros, they all say we want to be like Scandinavia. No, they don't. Because if you look at Sweden, for example, they have 100% voucher systems. The Democrats are controlled by the teachers union. They don't want vouchers. And we know that. But their constituents do, especially the minorities and the poor people. They want vouchers. They want to go to whatever schools is best for their kids. Number two, 80% of all of Sweden's social services are run by private organizations, nonprofits or for-profit companies. Sweden in the late 70s, early 80s was communist. It was socialist, and they found out it didn't work. It almost blew their country up. So they changed. Yes, their taxes are higher. They have universal health care, but they're not a socialist country, and that's what you need to bring out. Also, I will call Talib and these other squad members who attack Israel and everything else the racists that they are. They are racist. And I have no problem calling them out on that. And when they try to call me a white supremacist or whatever, I go, I don't care. I'm old fashioned. Sticks and stones will break my bones, words will never hurt me. I grew up with that and I firmly believe that. And, being a GI brat, I grew up in a mixed community. It wasn't until in the late 60s, early 70s, probably about 20%, 25% of all marriages on base were mixed marriages. I had no clue until my dad went to Vietnam and I went back to Scranton to live because that's where my family's originally from. That people had problems with interracial marriages. I had no clue, and so I have no problem calling them out on the table. That you are a racist, and I will call them out in Congress.
Who would you like to see as the president of this country in 2024 to get elected as a president?
I think I wouldn't mind seeing Santorum or Trump, either
Hmm.
one. All right,
Ron
even
DeSantis, you mean Ron DeSantis?
DeSantis, right, right. Because, and that's the other thing is, right now New York is still under lockdowns. When I'm at work, I have to wear a mask all day. I was down in Florida a couple of weeks ago. Nobody's wearing a mask.
Different
When I went
world.
back to, Mhm,
A different
exactly,
world.
absolutely. I went to back to Scranton for Christmas. Nobody was asking for vax cards. Nothing, nothing. And this is all about power. They have lied to people. Uh, Last Friday, I went out to dinner with a friend, and they brought their 9-year-old daughter. And, it was Chinese New Year's. We went down to Chinatown.
Hmm.
And she asked me why I wasn't wearing my mask outside. Because I'm going, this is a 9-year-old child. And she's been brainwashed that she has to wear a mask outside. This is sad. We are destroying kids' ability to understand what is safe and what's not safe by this misinformation, and we got to fight that. We got to fight this critical race theory that they're trying to push in school. I'm a firm believer in Martin Luther King Jr. You know, I judge a person by the quality of their selves, not the color of their skin. But these racist, quote unquote, progressives, which I call the politically woke or intellectually broke, because they
Yeah.
can never defend their stuff, that they are the new racists because they look at everything through racist colored glasses. And we got to stop that. We got to stop big tech and everything else from censoring us. We got to stop this nonsense and get back to the way our country was, where we accept everybody for who they are.
Which brings us to a next subject I wanted to hear your opinion about. We Russian Americans, we feel like we are living nightmare in terms of seeing all those signs of socialism taking hold in American life, seeing all this censorship and all this poverty that is in your face, and telling us that those people are better than us. So a lot of things bring back bitter, to put it mildly, memories. And you say that in your district there are some Russian American pockets of population. And tell us, what would you like to achieve among them? How would you bring them into the fold? Or
Well,
are
one of
they
the
pushing you
things,
into the fold?
well, every Russian I know has encouraged me. Actually, every legal immigrant into this country has encouraged me to run, especially if they came from socialist and communist nations, because they know what it's like to live under them. They know the lies that are being pushed on the American people from the far left in most of the media. Um, and I've studied it. I'm a historian. I've studied different countries, different religions, different societies, and nowhere in the world has socialism worked on a grand scale. And that's what we have to tell people. Uh, you know, the lies that are being pushed is ridiculous. Just think about this. They call, what's going on in especially in our cities, they call it systemic racism. Well, how can it be systemic racism when most of these cities are run by minorities? They keep the schools down. During the 70s, I was bused. I know what it's like to go to a minority school. I
Mhm.
know what it's like to be shipped into these areas, and it's a completely different animal. And um, even though I don't believe our school systems are that great anyway, even our top schools cannot compete with Europe and Asia that we think we do. We've been deluded into thinking our kids are, top notch when they're not. And I'm not blaming the kids. I'm blaming the teachers. I'm blaming the educrats that are dumbing down our schools. I was in accelerated classes in junior high school and high school, and now they got rid of those. Now they're trying to get rid of Stuyvesant and the other elite schools. Why? Because it's unfair. Well, it's unfair because you're not teaching these kids. I think we need to go a little bit more towards some of the European schools where you have more vocational studies. For example, you don't have to go to college to be a computer programmer. You can train, kids to be dental technicians, lab technicians. There's so many different jobs we can train them. Everybody doesn't have to go to college. Also, I would demand our colleges actually teach our kids again instead of indoctrinating them. And I would also not demand, but I would ask the big contributors from Wall Street and other businesses around the country, stop giving money. A lot of these people I've talked to are complaining that the college students coming out of school nowadays, they can't, operate in this real world because they've been coddled. They've been, you know, basically taught that their needs come before everybody else's. Oh, you have to take care of me first, and not your job. And that's not right. You have a contract when you sign up with that company. You need to do what they do. I mean, in the 2000s, I didn't have a full-time job, so I went and became a security guard, making $8 an hour
Mhm.
with some grad school. But I did the best job I could. I was up in Stevenson Commons in the Bronx. You know what I did? I was the only white security guard, midnight shift. I would still chase the people out of the stairwells. I would walk in the middle, break up dice games, and because that is what I was supposed to do. Because and it didn't matter because I was getting paid $8 an hour because I made a contract with the company, Cambridge Security. that was what I was supposed to do, and that's what I was going to do. Now you have people especially in the tech industry that will take down people's posts because they don't like it. You wearing a MAGA hat, all of a
Yeah.
sudden your whole Facebook will be gone because you were wearing a MAGA hat. Why? You can't do that. And we need to tell people and show people that that can't be done again.
No, of course, and I'll tell you, one of the things that I never cared what anybody's cap says or anybody's T-shirt says. I mean, I liked some, I disliked some, but who am I to judge what people wear? It's what this country is about, and nowadays when they teach. I would not call it. It's hatred for this country. In a
Absolutely.
school, when I hear what kids are discussing in school, what teachers tell them at school, it's critical thinking, they call it.
Right.
But they,
And
they they critical about the United States. But when you get critical about, say, Dr. Fauci, that's a whole different enchilada. It's a whole different thing. When you criticize, when you apply the same approach of critical, what changed? Nothing changed. Why they rescinding the mandates? Why they changing the rules? Science, Mr. Science didn't say anything, and now everything is changing. Everything's easing up. Uh, what worked? I can tell you, Canada worked. The
right.
convoy worked. That's what
Mhm.
what they were afraid of.
Well, and that's one of the things that I would ask of all your viewers and every other immigrant from socialist and communist nations. Don't be afraid to tell the Americans, especially the millennials and those that graduated and have been brainwashed, literally brainwashed in schools. Tell them what it's actually like to live under a communist and a socialist nation and how bad it is because they don't believe it. When you had Sean Penn saying Venezuela is so great, it's like when people are literally starving. You know, this can't go on, and our media is just as bad. What we need to do is take some of the tactics of the left and start canceling some of these far left lunatics that are trying to destroy our country. You know, and we need to stop that. For example, they're still trying to get rid of Rikers and build the jails. New Ling, Assemblywoman New Ling, I was at a rally in Chinatown to try to stop the building of the
Hmm.
first one. And she goes into her speech. She says, we stop building this new jail. Then she goes on and says, but we still need to close Rikers. New Ling, are you a moron? That means we still have to release all the criminals? Crime's already bad enough. So what do? They just are. You have to stop voting for whatever your team is, whether it's Democrat, Republican, or Independent, and actually look at what the candidates are saying, what they say they want to do. All the people are surprised that DA Bragg is not going to prosecute people, but that's what he ran on. And
Yeah.
his policies are similar to those of San Francisco's DA. And look what's going on in San Francisco. 17 Walgreens closed in San Francisco. Now, 17 Walgreens in San Francisco, since the population is only about 650,000, 700,000 people, that means if you extrapolate that to New York, that's about 100, 115 Walgreens that would have closed in New York. Who does that hurt? That hurts the middle class, that hurts the lower class. It doesn't hurt the rich because now you can't go get your medicines. Now, instead of walking, 3 blocks for an elderly person, you might have to go a mile to go get your medicine.
Yeah.
They don't think. It's just
Everything hurts the lowest layer of society, so to speak, economically. The most vulnerable would be the better term to to use. But yeah, and this Walgreen, this Dwayne Reed in the city, I think there was so many thieves just walked in and walked away with stuff. So they have to close this this pharmacy because there's nothing to that doesn't make sense to keep it
Yeah,
there because everything
yeah.
gets stolen.
It also happened to a Rite Aid up on Second Avenue and 80th Street, right near me. They closed because there was too much theft. They
Yeah.
can't stay open, and all that does is means the companies then have to raise the prices on us because of all this theft,
Mhm.
and so it hurts everybody.
Let me just. I was approached yesterday to let everybody know who's listening, who's watching here in Brooklyn. There will be a rally against the mandates, against the things that are imposed on us for freedom. They wanted to be Canadian truckers in Brooklyn, so to speak, similar to that. So people, please, this Sunday at noon, February 13th, on Ocean Parkway and Avenue W, there will be a rally, a lot of interesting speakers. We will find out how united we are, what common ideas we have, and then we'll look at each other, and there will be speakers of all walks of life and most languages that we have here in New York City, in Brooklyn. So please come February 13 at 12 p.m. on Ocean Parkway and Avenue W. There will be more information about it. I will continue talking about it in Russian as well. Mike, so if
Mhm.
people go to Mike, elect Mike Z for U.S., elect Mike Z .us. The information is under on the lower left corner. They can support you. They can make a donation there, right?
Absolutely. And you'll also see I have plenty of issues, some states, some not. Yeah, and you'll see some unique ideas that you won't see anywhere else because I want practical government. I don't want ideological government. I want what works for the people. And if it doesn't work, I'm not a genius, then we change it. We either modify it to make it work or we scrap it and start all over. That's what our politicians don't do. And one of the biggest problems in this country, and it doesn't matter, especially at the national level, but it happens in the state too. One size fits all legislation doesn't work. What works in New York City doesn't work in Butte, Montana. And that's the problem with a lot of our, especially younger kids and everything else. They don't know what it's like to live in small towns. They don't know what it's like to, when a good salary is $13 an hour. $13 an hour doesn't get you much here, but in $13 an hour, when you can buy a house for $18,000, it's a decent salary. And they're trying to enforce New York wages on the rest of the country. It doesn't work. They're trying to force gun regulations on the rest of the country that New York City is pushing. Well, if you live in the middle of nowhere, you have animals coming up there to your house. You might need that gun to defend yourself. You also have human animals that can come and try to break into, and the nearest cop, when you call them, is 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
So, so one size doesn't fit all. And this is what we need to understand and be more tolerant of everybody. That's what I want to bring to Congress. I want to bring that understanding. Uh, like I said, I grew up around the world. I grew up in many different communities. Here in New York, I've been involved in politics since '92, the first Ross Perot campaign, and I've helped candidates in in most neighborhoods in the city, poor neighborhoods, rich neighborhoods. Most of the candidates I helped were insurgent Democrats, mostly minorities. And guess what? People's problems are mostly the same. And it's just our politicians that try to separate us. I want to bring us together. I want practical government that is going to work for everybody. And if we don't do that, our country can be lost. And I've been calling us the United States of Rome since the 80s when I was in school. I wrote it in a paper. And if you look at the fall of Rome, there are a lot of commonalities for what's going on in the United States right now and what happened to the Roman Empire at, just before its collapse. And I'm an optimist. I'm a 61-year-old optimist. I still think we can change it. I still think we can win over a lot of the people that have been misinformed through the media, through schools, and everything else. We just have to get out there and challenge them. We have to let people know what's going on. Don't be afraid. Too many Republicans are afraid to even let them know they're Republicans. Too many, even Democrats, are afraid to speak up that they don't like what's going on in their schools. They don't like what's going on, with the crime situation. But they're willing to start looking at other candidates. That's why I still feel I have a chance of winning, because I can sell to many different people. I have practical ideas. I'm not, and if somebody proves I'm wrong on an idea, I'll modify it. I've done it before, because I'm not a genius. I'm not omnipotent. So there's things I might not have thought about. So if I understand, you make me understand why something has to be changed, then we can change it and try to make things better. That's why I think I can work with both sides, with the practical people. I also think, because there's a lot of elected Democrats that have military experience, Republicans have military experience. I want to start trying to form like a military caucus, just like the Black Caucus, the Hispanic Caucus, the Women's Caucus, because we need that.
And you
Right
can
now,
bring
we need,
everybody into the fold, because all colors, all walks of life in American life, they served, and people get experience, and they it's something that can be a very successful idea to bring people based on their military experiences.
absolutely, and especially with the crises around the world, mostly attributed to the Biden administration, because you have Putin putting pressure on Ukraine, you have China threatening Taiwan, you have Korea firing testing nuclear missiles again, you have Iran, and all these other bad actors are acting up because Biden is acting like Chamberlain, who basically gave up Czechoslovakia to the Germans because he was too weak. And we can't have, another Chamberlain. And I'm afraid that's what Biden is. That's why we need a strong caucus. That's when I think if we can get a military caucus together of Democrats and Republicans and do this, I think we can actually put some uh, backbone back into this country, even with President Biden for the last 2 years of his administration, and maybe some of these bad actors will back off a little bit, because
Yeah.
when good people go to sleep, bad people will take advantage.
That's so true. And we need in our government people who are calm, people who are knowledgeable, people who are passionate but very, very effective. This country is known for so many things around the world, and not of them are created equal, so to speak. But effectiveness of the American economy, American politics, American way of life is what brings people here. The main
Absolutely.
ideas worked, and this has to be put back into the gas tank, because so
And
far there is garbage.
Right. And we can't do it alone. We need you, the American people, to help us. You have to come out and vote. Vote these people out of office that have been destroying this country, have been more interested in their donors. It could either be by not just voting, but volunteering, contributing money, because it takes a lot to run for office. I've run for office a number of times, but you know, but we need to get the message out there. So if you can send me $10, send your local candidate $10. That goes to help fight and save our country. This goes to let people know there is an alternative. Don't give up. This country was founded on fighting City Hall. England was not, nobody was supposed to beat England. England was the big bad boy, yet our Continental Army defeated them. Yes, with some help with the French, but we were able to take on the biggest army in the world, or one of the most powerful armies, not the largest per se, but one of the most powerful because of their navy and how they can move around. And we were able to defeat them. We can defeat the radical progressives. The nonsense of these ideas can be basically overcome with putting practical ideas out, showing how wrong they are. Remember, the politically woke or intellectually broke, they can't defend their ideas. That's why they try to call people racist. That's why they shut them down, because their ideas can't stand the light of day. And so don't be intimidated. I know that they're coming after us if you're speaking out against them, but we are the majority. They're the minority. Only like 2% of Twitter people do 90% of all tweets. So that they're a very small minority. Remember that. But it's up to you to stand up and fight with us, help me and other candidates, and we can take this country back from them and make it what the dream was. Yes, do we have bad things in our past? Yes, every country does. But we also have some very, very great things that a lot of other countries don't. We don't teach history in our country, in our school systems anymore. And what history they do teach is radicalized, and it is wrong in a lot of spots. Yeah. We need to defeat them by bringing ideas together, electing people like me and other Republicans and some Democrats that are willing to fight back. Vote for the person, not the party, and we can win this country back for all of us.
I think the Democrats don't have ran out of ideas entirely. To me, is to be a member of Democrat Party is to be willfully blind and ignorant and denying any knowledge of economy or history. Mike, thank you so much. I think we need you in the office. Friends, please visit electmikez.us. If you can donate, donate. If you need to read more about him, it says a lot. There's a lot of reading to do there. Mike is not hiding anything in his bio, and it's an interesting read. All 3 pages of it. Mike, thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me on.